Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Reverend Dr. Bud James, and I'll be hosting tonight's service. And our theme for January is Contemplation and Centering. We find that this is a wonderful theme to start the new year on. Here is our agenda for tonight. We will be opening with our invocation. We will take a look at this month's seasonal observations. We have a wonderful guest speaker tonight, Reverend Dr. Keith Lowenstein, who will be sharing his insights on our theme. And with his background in Kriya Yoga, I am sure we are all going to be in for a wonderful, very deep, very powerful meditation, as that is his specialty. Then we'll be looking at our universal blessing, experiencing that. We've got a couple of wonderful songs and prayers that we'll be doing as well along the way. Lots of chanting tonight. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Our experiential sharing section is an opportunity for everyone who chooses to share their experience with contemplation and centering and connecting more deeply to the divine. We'll do our monthly announcements and then wrap it up until next month. And at this point, I would like to ask Reverend Catherine Congdon to come forward and share the New Light Temple invitation, yes, and invocation. Reverend Catherine.
Thank you, Reverend Bud. New Light Temple was founded by Rabbi Joseph Gelberman as a haven where people of all beliefs and backgrounds could joyously come together to share their bountiful and varied gifts of spirit. New Light Temple is the ordaining body for All Faiths Seminary International. Our purpose is to provide a sacred space for people of all faiths and ages to celebrate diverse religious and spiritual traditions. We gather for connection, inspiration, solace, and healing while fostering understanding, peace, love, and unity. In the words of Gandhi, I offer you peace. I offer you love. I offer you friendship. I see your beauty. I hear your need. I feel your feelings. My wisdom flows from the highest source. I salute this source in you. Let us work together for unity and peace. And in the words of Rabbi Gelberman, never instead of, always in addition to. Back to you, Reverend Bud.
Thank you, Reverend Catherine. So let's talk about all of the various January holy and important observations. From our perspective as an interfaith organization, there are a number of different things that we see that people take and look at each month, and it's always interesting, and I always learn something new each time. Now, of course, we all celebrated New Year's Day, and what you might not know is that in pre-Christian Rome, long ago, under the Julian calendar, the day January 1st was dedicated to Janus, the god of gateways and beginnings, for whom January is named. And other cultures celebrate traditional or religious New Year's Days celebrations according to their own customs, typically, but not invariably, because they use a lunar calendar, which is a little bit different than our Julian calendar. But we see folks from the Buddhist and the Chinese and the Islamic and Tamil and the Jewish New Year, they're all examples of following the lunar calendar. So there's lots of interesting things there. We see New Year's being celebrated at a lot of different times, but it's all right around the calendar beginning of the year. On the 5th of January was Guru Gobind Singh's birthday, and he was the son of Guru Teg Bahadur, the 9th Guru of the Sikh religion. He was officially inducted as the 10th Sikh Guru at the age of, get this, 9. following the beheading of his father for repudiating his conversion to Islam. He was known as a philosopher, a poet, warrior, and most importantly, a spiritual master. January 6th was Epiphany, which is one of the more important Christian holidays. It shows how God comes to his people and reveals his salvation to the world. The word epiphany comes from the Greek word epiphania, which means manifestation or appearance. And this day falls on the 6th of January each year, or the Sunday that falls between the 2nd and the 8th January in some countries. On the 7th, we celebrated Mahayana, which is on the first full moon in January. And again, that lunar calendar thing comes up. And this marks the beginning of the New Year's for folks who follow the Mahayana Buddhist belief system. The Buddhist New Year falls on a different day based on ethnicity and country, however, because, for instance, the Chinese, the Koreans, and the Vietnamese hold their celebrations with a lunar calendar in either late January or early February, whereas the Tibetans are roughly a month later. So again, it's just kind of interesting to see all these different ways of looking at the new year. Maghi-Lohri is actually a combination on the 13th of the Maghi Hindu festival that's celebrated often in Punjab and the Himachal Pradesh, and the Lohri Peoples Festival that's celebrated in northern India. The combination of these two events creates a very festive atmosphere, and they do bonfires and eat sweet dishes, and also there's a ritual bathing in ponds or rivers, and often in the Ganges. So there's a lot of different ways that they celebrate it, with lots of singing and dancing and lighting of bonfires. On the 15th of January was the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And as we all know, Dr. King was a chief spokesperson for nonviolent activism in the civil rights movement. And he made a huge impact around the world, protesting racial discrimination and focusing very clearly on how in federal and state laws, we actually saw racism as one of the major movements of that whole attempt at removing racism from the legal system. Isn't that interesting? His landmark speech of "I Had a Dream" was a beautiful vision of all people, of all races and colors and backgrounds that share in an America marked by freedom and democracy. And the campaign for a federal holiday in Dr. King's honor began soon after his assassination, and President Reagan signed the holiday into law in 1983. And MLK Day is celebrated in many states as a day of citizen action and volunteer service to others, all regarding this great man's vision. And by the way, you might not know this, but in addition to the US, MLK Day is also recognized by Canada, Israel, Japan, and the Netherlands. A worldwide impact. Also on the 15th was Makar Sankranti, which is a midwinter Hindu festival that is held in Nepal and India. And it's, interestingly enough, is a solstice celebration. It marks the transition of the sun from Sagittarius to Capricorn during the winter solstice, and in the Northern Hemisphere, of course. Every year, Hindus also gather in large numbers to take a bath in the Ganges at Gangasakar, also known as Sagar Island. So lots of religious bathing in January, a very chilly time to be doing that. Up soon will be the Chinese New Year, which actually starts on the 22nd and ends on the 5th of February. In the old days of China, and I found this to be quite interesting when I was researching this, the emergence of the new moon, which is what it's tied to because it's on a lunar calendar, and it starts the inception of the Chinese New Year. Does everybody know what year this is in Chinese tradition? The year of the rabbit. Year of the rabbit. Now, what was interesting is that in popular mythology, there is this notion of a beast in Chinese mythology that would visit cities and eat cattle and crops and even the people. And in order to protect themselves from this beast, they would put food at their doorsteps, and then the beast would eat that and wouldn't harm them. However, they found out over time that this beast named Neon was afraid of the color red. And so they would hand red paper lanterns and other things red, and they would hang these up all over the place. That's why you see all the red in the world of the Chinese tradition. And they would also use firecrackers to fight off the beast. And apparently it worked because he stopped showing up at the various cities. So there you go. Self-fulfilling prophecy, I suppose. And of course, if you see or if you know of a tradition that either we don't have right or we're missing, please feel free to add it and share it, put it in chat, let us know. We'll be more than happy to make sure that it gets corrected going forward. We always find this kind of fun to look at. And now what I would like to do is introduce our guest speaker for the evening, Reverend Keith Lowenstein. He is an interfaith minister ordained by All Faith Seminary International in 2022 and is currently working on his master's in divinity. Dr. Keith is board certified in psychiatry, obesity, and integrative holistic medicine. He's also fully trained in medical acupuncture, somatic and psychedelic psychotherapy, and cranial osteopathy. Keith began his study of the mind-body-spirit interface back in 1971 with transcendental meditation, followed by extended training in yogic meditation. He's the author of Kriya Yoga for Self-Discovery, Practices for Deep States of Meditation, which is an amazing book, and is in the same spiritual lineage as described in the well-known book, Autobiography of a Yoga by Paramhansa Yogananda. Reverend Keith, I would love to invite you to come forward and share with us your insights on tonight's theme of contemplation and centering. Reverend Keith.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. So we'll have a little talk first, and then we'll practice some centering. All right. Okay, there we go. So to begin with, I think I'd like everybody to try and center a little bit. And as you'll see, as we get a little further on, posture is an important piece of centering. So if everyone can just take a couple minutes to sit still, get in a position where your pelvis is well supported by whatever you're sitting on. If you're on a soft chair, maybe move toward the front. And then don't do anything that strains you, but take a nice deep breath and let your shoulders come up toward your ears as you take a deep breath, and then go back down. I think I'm going to stop sharing here. Okay. Shoulders nice, go up nice toward your ears. And then squeeze your shoulder blades together as you hold your breath, and then slowly let your shoulders drop. And now as you do that again, pay attention to your coccyx and the top of your head. And just see if you can grow as you do that breath. Shoulders up, back, and down. And just try to enjoy that. Okay. So just to get us all a little bit centered. And so I started, so Reverend Bud did ask me to speak on contemplation and centering, and as I began to think about it, I thought, oh, no, not on contemplation and centering. It's on centering and contemplation. Because my opinion is really for contemplation to happen, we want to get some centering. So there's all kinds of ways of centering, and we'll see some different pictures. Here we see St. Francis. This is a painting of St. Francis by Bellini, so early 1500s. And you see that it's even painted that nature is going around him, and he's clearly very heart and spirit centered here, very open. And here we have a young woman also communing with nature. Nature is really quite a theme for centering. All the primal religions began that way. So this is a spectrum of human consciousness, with kind of unconsciousness and coma being down on this second, and this side, enlightenment, with all the kind of stuff in between, dreaming, waking, concentration, contemplation, and meditation. So centering, we can voluntarily center in these areas. Most people through most of their waking state can do some type of centering practice. Certainly concentration training is a centering practice, and contemplation can also extend that. So up here you see V1, V2, V3, V4. These correspond to 4 different exercises in yogic meditation, and we'll learn more about them later. But this is posture, breath, visualization, and use of sound. And so all of these can be centering practices in themselves. And you move that forward and head up to contemplation. So this is a little bit expanded from that last view. This is the basics of Kriya Yoga. And these 4 practices that fit into Kriya Yoga, which is a lineage of Raja Yoga, is probably a very good way to think about it. And Raja Yoga is the practical aspects of what is written about in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, if people are familiar with that. But there's the 4 V's, and they're all practices, so they're all things you engage in. Verticalization, ventilation, we just played with those a little bit, visualization, and vibrationalization. So this is working with posture, with breath, with your mind's eye, with your mind's ear, looking, listening, trying to find the sound of silence. Spinal awareness, the breath is about the life force. Focusing internally into the mind's eye or some other focused, concrete or abstract point for concentration allows for sensory retraction of our outer cells, our outer senses. And then we can work with inner outer sound. So these are all centering practices in themselves, and any one can be explored and practiced for hours, months, years, decades. This is working with the physical body. This is working with our biological body. This is working with our psychological selves and our spiritual selves. So these all kind of correspond across like that. And then as we learn to play with each one, we can get involved in micromodulation of fine-tuning these so that our centering gets deeper and we can move on to other areas of exploration like meditation. And contemplation would come kind of between these. We're looking to get our whole biopsychic apparatus into optimal operational order, which it allows when all these things work together very nicely. You move into meditation. That's the Kriya Raja Yoga practice overview. So here we have a picture of a man at the Wailing Wall. And I was looking for some pictures to include in this. Some different pictures of people in prayer. And wow, this one just really grabbed me because I see everything from the deep physical world to the spiritual world here. We see this, old stone representing matter in the world. We see, somebody who's alive here, obviously, right? His biology is present. And look at his mind and how he's activating his mind's eye and how he's communing with nature. At the same time as he tunes all of that up, then he moves into contemplation and then connection with the above. So I just, this picture just really, really struck me. So that's what I saw when I first saw it. A little bit about posture. Look at all these postures and you can kind of get a sense of the feeling associated with it. We saw this one already. Here's someone communing with nature. Here's a woman about to engage in dance. Namaste, another centering gesture. Here's prayer. All these are centering practices. Whirling dervish, another centering practice. So that's there for movement. This is showing that there can be a visual for a centering practice. And this is interesting. These are, most of these, many of these are by an artist, Nicholas Roerich. This one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. So he was a Russian who traveled through the East and painted as he went in the late 1800s, if my memory is right. But look, she's a little bit bent over here. And so she's highly focused, but this looks a little bit more like grief and sorrow. So it's a lot you can do with your body, and that can influence whatever centering or contemplation you're trying to do. So I see centering as a progressive process of self-regulation. So the most beginning stages, you get a physiological relaxation. You move into mindfulness, which is a gentle way of keeping yourself focused on something. And that is a form of concentration and centering. Then contemplation, which is a beautiful area where you can kind of sit and observe your thoughts and have them stay with you as opposed to be running all around. Then moving into meditation and then beyond. And your practices, whatever they are, help you move along that route. So it's a dynamic alignment. Centering is a dynamic alignment. So it's always kind of changing and you're always just refining it. So each of these, as you become more familiar with them, you can adjust it, or whatever practices you already have. So here's some examples of other centering practices. Davening in the Jewish religion, which is, movement, swaying, rocking. It's a physical way of engaging in centering. Making the sign of the cross, another way of centering for Catholics. The daily Muslim prayer, which is illustrated here, which is wonderful. This has elements of, prostrations that are common with the Judaism and Catholicism. There's bowing, which is common in the Eastern traditions, showing just all the overlap. And turning the head from side to side and then centering it, all important, and happens at certain times of the day, and also with a direction, toward Mecca. The yoga and the chakras, any of these areas, any of these chakras can be used as a focus for centering or meditation, as can just doing the energy in the spine and connecting from the coccyx up to the fontanelle. Buddhists use mindfulness a lot. Zoroastrians have the fire, which is central in their religion. And if you've ever spent any amount of time just in a fire, working with a fire pit for hours and hours and hours, that itself is a form of centering. Prayer, mantra, japa. Japa's the Sanskrit word for repetitive prayer. All very powerful. The rosary, certainly another powerful mode for centering, especially once you get used to these things and there's a conditioned response to them. Centering at the same time of day in the same place adds more power to what you're doing. Prostration, certainly, and bowing, both common throughout. Orthodox Christians to most spiritual groups have had some form of bowing or prostration. Here's showing a kind of a classic picture of engaging with spirit through centering. And this picture also, so this is something that in the Jewish tradition, these boxes are filled with scripture in Hebrew. And it's interesting, they're tied right over the third eye. And then there's the yarmulke. This man's wearing a shawl over his head, but there's also a yarmulke there. And what is that all about? That's all about reminding you to keep your attention on the top of your head, on your connection with God. So, contemplation. So we do all those practices, and then we get into a nice deep state, and we can start to just kind of sit with these thoughts. So instead of mind kind of spinning and spinning, you can kind of think of it as these thoughts are clouds, and you might just have 2 or 3 or even 1, but it kind of stays there, and you're in a state where you can have that there. You're open to intuition to come through. You can look at something from a different perspective, and it's a wonderful place to spend time. But it's the centering that does help us get there quicker. And so Father Keating spoke about centering prayer, and I just looked him up just to see, okay, so what does actually he say about this? Centering prayer is a method of silent prayer that prepares us to receive the gift of contemplative prayer. So he's really kind of on the same track here. And he talks about using the Trinity to help with that, which is really in line with yogic meditation. So here's the elderly Jewish man praying at the wall over here. And I bring this here just because I want to remind you that I spoke about matter in the physical world, his biology, his psychology, and the spirit. And so this is a diagram that I learned from my teacher, who I spent quite a few years with in my early 20s. And he kind of broke the human experience up into this 2-dimensional model. Evolution coming this way from ultimate universal unity or the absolute, creation coming this way, and then evolution going this way. And in the middle here, you have kind of the interaction of the space-time continuum in the lower half and above the space-time continuum above. And this is representative of the spine and the chakras. So there's an exercise in yogic meditation for each of these fields, so to speak, posture and breath. And breath, of course, brings life, and this intersection of time going one way and life going another. And then our concentration exercises, and then the engagement of sound. So V1, V2, V3, V4. So that's a little bit of an overview, but it's where the idea comes from matter, over here, biology, psychology, and spirit. And so the important thing to do is to practice, and practice and practice and practice. Let us move into some practice. So we're going to go into a meditation and use all of those centering techniques. So we'll build on it. We'll start with posture. We'll use some breath. We'll do some third eye focus. And so if you have a short little prayer that you like to recite, or a mantra, or just saying Om or Omen, that's wonderful. And so when we get to that part, you can utilize that for yourself. Something with some, flow and consistency would be good. All right. So again, make sure everybody's sitting nice and straight and has good support. Right. So the first thing we do is connect our pelvis to whatever we're sitting on and connect that to the earth. Okay. So just make sure that you're comfortable, you have some good support. If you need to lean against the back of the chair, please do that. And now, in this modern age where we look at so many screens, Many of us have had our shoulders kind of slowly move forward and wrap around. So we're going to just do a couple of stretches for our arms. So bring your shoulders back if you can. No shoulder injuries. If you have a shoulder injury, be careful. But as you squeeze your shoulder blades together, then with them in the back, just try to stretch up a little bit a couple times. Just do what feels good to you. Okay? You can put your arms up together. But we're looking to really kind of get our shoulders in a good position so we can breathe. So then we'll go back to the breathing that we were doing before. So full yogic breath, but we're going to start with just a few shoulder exercises. So in breath, shoulders up, back, and down. On the in breath, shoulders up. And then you hold your breath a bit, squeeze your shoulder blades together, and then let your shoulders drop. Whole time paying attention to your spine. Making sure your spine is nice and straight. Now we try to have a really, really full breath. So I'll describe this. Just go into your normal breathing pattern at the moment, but try to keep those shoulder blades back a little bit and connected. And what we're going to do is we're going to try and do a full yogic breath, or what we refer to as our 4 regular rhythmic reposed respiration. So we're at the beginning of the breath, we're kind of going to breathe into our pelvic bowl a little bit, and then we're going to breathe up into our rib area and feel our ribs expand in the back to the sides. And then we're going to breathe all the way up to here, all the way almost into your throat. And so I really want you to feel this part of your chest fill up with air as your shoulders go up and back a little bit. Okay, so let's do 3 or 4 of those, and then we'll continue into meditation from there. So nice in-breath. Fill it all the way up, a little retention, and then down. And we'll continue to do this a few times. And as we do, after a full, very deep breaths like this, after 2 or 3 of those at your own pace, let your breath become more subtle, but keeping your shoulders back so that your lungs can be fully utilized. As you do that, check in with your posture. Connect with your coccyx and the top of your head. On the in-breath, I'd like you to feel the energy fill up, coming in the top of your head and filling up your spine from the bottom of your coccyx all the way up to the top. And then on exhalation, the energy goes back down into your coccyx or sacral area. Try to be mindful of your spine as you do this. Centering techniques, or centering our spine, our posture, our alignment. And we're balancing our breath. See if you can feel a difference if you retain your breath a little bit longer. So when you're on the in-breath, and once you're all full, almost up to your throat, just hold it a second. And then slowly let it out. Now we'll continue to work on a couple of posture fine points. So as you do this, and you keep breathing and connected with your spine, I'd like you to slowly tilt your chin down, not your head and your neck, just your chin a little bit so that you feel a little pressure under your chin against your throat where your thyroid is. And at the same time, your neck should almost, in the back, should almost feel a little stretch. And see if when you breathe, you can bring your sternum, your upper chest, up a little bit to connect with your, just closer to your chin as you breathe. Expand that chest. Feel the life force of your breath come in and expand from the inside out. Slowly take your attention and put it in your forehead, right on the skin, maybe an inch above your eyebrows or so. And I'd like you to breathe into that spot. So breathe right up from your nose into the front part of your brain. And let it draw your attention to that spot. As you maintain your posture and full rhythmic respiration, keep your attention on a spot there. Is there a spot that calls to you that's easy for you to maintain your attention? Could be on your forehead, could be between your eyebrows, could be a little bit inside that area, could be a little bit outside that area. Try to move your awareness to that area. It's in the front of your forehead. You maintain your attention there in that one spot. See if you could feel your eyes deeply relax into your skull. So your attention stays in your forehead, but you're relaxing your eyes. You're relaxing the whole eyeball. You're almost letting it roll back in your head like a billiard ball does right before it comes to a stop, as it comes to a stop. Feel the deep relaxation while you keep your attention, your mind's eye. And just enjoy, remembering to breathe ever so subtle. And now see if you can add some sound. You know, when you're by yourself, this could be out loud, but it can also be silent. Certainly, you can do repetitive sounds with your breath. So in your mind, you're going Om or some other little phrase or prayer that you've come up with. If it's out loud, of course, it has to go with your breath. And when you get to practice this at home at your leisure, play with the vibration. Feel the vibration in your chest. Move the vibration around to different places in the back of your throat. What does it feel like? What does it sound like? Feel it resonate depending on the tone with different parts of your body. All the while you're maintaining your breath, ideally through your nostrils. And if you find you're distracted, you always come back to your center. For some, that works best with posture, for others, breath, for others, visualization, and yet others, sound. Think of this as creative communion. Learn the basics and play around with the edges. So now, can you try to maintain your posture, maintain your attention on your spine and your third eye area as you continue to breathe and hear the repetitive mantra in the background. Eyes deeply relaxed. And now just gently raise your eyebrows up. Add a slight smile to your face. As you just go deeper into this practice of centering. Centering your physical body, your physiology, your mind, and engaging with spirit. See if you can notice the difference with your eyebrows slightly raised and the slight smile compared to not adding that. Okay. Well, let us slowly come back to the room. Okay, good. Oh, I can't see everybody, so there we've got a few more people smiling with their eyes open. That's good. That's good, good, good. And so, right, so the most important thing you hopefully learned today, or this is the most important slide really that I have to show. Yeah, so try it. And same time, same place every day. Very powerful. That's centering in itself. You're centering then with the planet and all of those forces as well. So thank you all for your attention. This was my teacher. I spent about 4 to 5 years with him as his kind of assistant. When I was 22, I met him. And then I was his last main student. And then he sent me off to medical school. So he was like, okay, enough of this. Thank you, everybody. Oh, Reverend Bud, it's all yours.
Wow. Gee whiz, Reverend Dr. Keith, that was amazing. I really, really enjoyed that. And I could just feel the energy flow right up through my center channel as I was really contemplating on my third eye and just really feeling that movement of energy. It was quite lovely. Quite lovely. Thank you so much. Wonderful stuff. I would like to invite Reverend Catherine Congdon to come forward again and share our Gayatri Mantra prayer. This is a wonderful prayer that I think you'll find to be very, very powerful. Reverend Catherine.
Thank you, Reverend. Well, I'm Reverend Catherine Congdon, and that was great, Reverend Dr. Keith. It's the new year. I want to start getting back into a meditation practice. So this was a good jumping off point for me. Thank you. So I'm going to lead you in the Gayatri Mantra. Mantras, as mentioned, can be a useful tool in centering and contemplation. Reciting mantras or chanting is used in many different religions and also in secular meditative recitations, such as the use of positive intention. Chanting is said to improve concentration and learning, remove toxins from the body, improve breathing and functioning of the nervous system, keeps your heart healthy, calms the mind, reduces stress and anxiety, and removes negativity. What's not to like, right? The Gayatri Mantra is a few thousand-year-old Sanskrit mantra that is found in the Rig Veda. This mantra is said to remove darkness by infusing light into our minds and hearts. We're going to recite the Gayatri mantra together 3 times. When we are done, we'll end on an Om. So relax, close your eyes if you like, take a deep breath in and exhale. Please remain on mute and recite along with me. Om Bhurvasvaha Tatsavitur Vareniyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhurvasvaha Tatsavitur Vareniyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhurvasvaha Tatsavitur Vareniyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om. Please open your eyes if you had them closed. Thank you for joining me. And back to you, Reverend Bud.
Wonderful, lovely. And I truly enjoy reading this meaning underneath as well. We meditate on that most adored Supreme Lord, the Creator, whose divine light illumes all realms, physical, mental, and spiritual. May this divine light illuminate our intellect. One of the most wonderful, ancient of all prayers. Thank you very much, Catherine. Absolutely lovely. Now I'd like to ask Reverend Natalia de Resendez to come forward and share with you, with all of us, our universal blessing. Reverend Natalia.
Thank you, Reverend Bud. I am noticing that after that very deep meditation with Reverend Keith, that it's very hard to be speaking up to speed. Our universal blessing. The divine bestows these blessings on us all. Miraculous love and providence, comfort, hope, and healing, understanding hearts, resistance to temptation, freedom from egoism, equal vision, faith, devotion, and wisdom, spiritual progress and inner strength, virtuous hearts, compassion for the less fortunate, and love for all. May these blessings of the divine rest upon us. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May we lift the veil and see the divine spark in all of them. Peace, shalom, salam, shanti.
Thank you, Reverend Natalia. Actually, next, Natalia, you're going to introduce the Mul Mantar, which I believe is a very big and wonderful chant in your family and a big favorite of yours as well. Reverend Natalia.
The Mul Mantar, thank you, Rev Bud. Mul Mantar is the chant of the Sikhs. We found this beautiful rendition on YouTube a couple of years ago, actually. And yes, it has become a family favorite in that I find myself using it with my grandson at sleep time. Now, the Mul Mantar is in Punjabi, and in the 4 or 5 lines of the Mul Mantar, the total teaching of the Sikhs is totally embraced in just 4 or 5 lines. We'll see the power in these words. One universal creator, God. The name is truth, creative being personified. No fear and no hatred. Image of the undying, beyond birth, self-illuminated by Guru's grace. And it's repeated 108 times on this beautiful rendition. Very simplistic melody of it, cool instrumentation behind it. I invite us all to join, mute, and sing along. We are not going to do it 108 times, but we are going to do it 2 and maybe 2.5 minutes, that we may begin to groove and center within the oneness of the allness. Thank you, Reverend Bud.
Thank you very much. And now we will go into our experiential sharing segment, which is going to focus on contemplation and centering, or as going forward, I may change that to be centering and contemplation per Reverend Keith. I think that that's a wonderful insight, perhaps, into the correct order. So our question for this evening is focused on our theme. What practices, what contemplation and centering practices bring you closer to the divine, bring you closer to the divine? We'll be asking for volunteers who'd like to share their experiences with our theme. And we ask that you just speak briefly from your heart for a minute or two, sharing your feelings, sensory experiences, practices, your thoughts, and keep it to a minute or two, allowing others to share as well. And I'll stop sharing my screen here in just a moment. And if you would like, you can just raise your hand or put up your reaction button, and we'd love to have you share your insights.
Woo-hoo.
So, Reverend Natalia, I think you would like to share your insights. Please do.
So it was like right now, like what just happened just now during this session, that I'm just so grateful for having experienced. But there are 2 things that I'd like to say. It's that meditating, the power of meditating whilst others are meditating with you, that we all come into that space of just total oneness. Back in the 70s, I took the TM course, and then for many years, I was what you could call a TM dropout. More recently, I retook the course, and I became part of the teachers who taught it have a meditation group. They do it twice a month. And I have found that when I'm on and meditating with them, there's just such a powerful experience of what I continually call now the oneness of the allness of the isness of the usness. You can feel it. You can feel the vibration of all of us raising into that. Oh, I'm at a loss for words, because that's exactly where it takes you, where there are no words. There's just the feeling of it. So I'm just wanting to say thank you for this, Reverend Keith. This was wonderful. This was just another experience. And this is how I'll end: an opportunity to practice, practice, practice.
Thank you, Reverend Natalia. I also know that you, as part of your practice, use music to connect with centering and contemplation and the divine. And that is a big part of mine as well. But I do agree. If we want to do it, we do have to actually practice. So thank you. Thank you. And Reverend Kareen.
Thank you. Namaste. Yes, I have practiced contemplation and meditation almost my whole life. I just started at 16 with transcendental meditation, with a mantra. Then, my main school has been TM, then Osho. I'm a sannyasi from India since about 25 years ago. I practice a lot of active meditation. And then later, I'm a Zen Buddhist since 6 years ago. So I have passed through different schools and experiences. I love all kinds of meditations, also contemplative meditation. And my past has been the meditation. Yes.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kareen. Wonderful. Appreciate that. Who else might like to share? We have Dave and Lynn. Yes, please.
I have shared this before, so I'll make it brief. I have come to combine contemplation and meditation with watching my own thoughts, to be aware of what I am thinking and how I am thinking about life and about other people. And whenever I find negativity has crept into my mind and I'm thinking something negative about another person or another event or something, I immediately stop that, and I have created a mantra that reverses that type of thinking and gets me on what I think is the right track. And that mantra is very simple. And I say it over and over again till my mind is settled back in truth. We are love. We are one. We are one. We are love. And that includes everyone, the whole earth, all of existence. It can just extend out that way. But we are love. We are one. We are one. We are love. And that gets my mind back where it should be. Thank you.
That was lovely, Lynn. Wow, I love that. That is just a great way to recenter yourself into the moment, especially when ego comes in and wants to share a different view of the world, perhaps. I'll just put it that way.
Definitely. Thank you for letting me share.
Who else has a practice or a contemplative exercise that they like to do? Help them come back to center. Reverend Catherine, please.
I guess I've had different practices like other people during my life, and I'd say one that really helped me was was meditating on my breath. And at one point, for quite some time, I did do it at the same time. So I wasn't doing it. I didn't understand about what Keith was saying in his talk at the time, but I would just sit for 20 minutes and just focusing on my breath. But at the same time, being open, to God, and just sitting there and being present. And another practice and then I did, wasn't all the time, but I did feel that connection and peace. And sometimes a little startlingly, even, just like I really felt, wow, not all the time. And another thing that actually helped me was years and years ago, I was raised Catholic, but my mom was Protestant. My dad was like non-practicing Catholic. And so I never learned how to pray the rosary, which I guess, people would think is a main thing in Catholicism, but I just knew what the beads were. I didn't even know all the beads, but I ended up joining this mother's prayer group in my parish when I was really super stressed out at 3 kids, and was just so, but after praying the rosary with this group for like 9 months or 10 months and praying it on my own, I found that it was like a trigger for this incredible peace. I eventually stopped doing that, but I found that also with being in a prayer group, being with other people, like Natalia was saying, just feeling that, whether it's in a church or a temple or at someone's home, just, there's an energy and a presence that I felt.
We can even feel it here on Zoom.
Yes, we can. We can. If we were all in the same room, it would be even better.
Mm.
But anyway, those were some of my experiences. And music and being in nature, just so many ways of connecting. So thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you, Catherine. That was lovely. I was merely going to comment on something you just touched on, and that is, for me, being in nature has always very, very rapidly connected me to the divine, because I just sit in awesome wonder of all the things thy hand has created. And I contemplate on the stars that are behind us, for instance, tonight. And it is an amazing experience. As a very active scuba diver for most of my life, with over 4,000 dives, I've spent a lot of time underwater. And when I am in that space, it is a place of, for me, I can meditate underwater. A lot of people aren't that comfortable. I'm very comfortable underwater. I can fall asleep underwater if I wanted to. So I am at peace with that environment. And I have never felt closer to God than when I'm meditating underwater. And Keith, talk about hearing the sound of your own breath. You do that a lot underwater. Blah, 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 blah. But if you really are there in that space of the divine is all around me, I am one with the divine, it's ecstatic, it's magical. It's a wonderful experience. And I still do that. We go out hiking every week, and I go into the mountains of the Sierras, which are right in my backyard. And I am always just, the divine is here. And it doesn't take any more than that. Just a breath, a thought, and you can feel it. All right. Well, thank you so much, folks. That was a wonderful sharing. I think that we all got a lot out of that tonight. We'll wrap it up with some announcements and some important things. And here are our themes for the year. So the New Light Temple's themes are, as you can see here. And right now we're obviously in centering and contemplation. And I'll talk about next month's themes coming up. But as you take a look at each of those themes, if any of them speak to you, if when you're looking at these and you go, wow, you know what? I have a lot to say on that particular topic. We would love to hear from you and have you share with us your thoughts and join. And you can participate in any of our monthly events. All of the at Run New Light Temple are graduates of All Faith Seminary International. However, you don't have to be a graduate to share your insights into some aspect of one of these topics or themes. We would absolutely enjoy hearing from you. And I've put into a chat a number of the links to the different things I'll be talking about here coming up, so you can get a feel of all those various events that are coming up soon and that I'll be talking about. Now, next month, we're going to have Reverend Laura Durr share with us her insights on love and friendship. And we're very excited about that. And as always, we usually are on the third Thursday of every month, and we will be in February. And it should be a fun event, and we'll be talking about it. And of course, we chose February because it is the month of Valentine's, and so we have the opportunity to think about a deeper relationship. And I would like to ask Reverend Keith to come off of mute and talk about his upcoming classes. If you're interested in learning more about Kriya Yoga, this is your guy. This is your guide into deeper states of meditation. Dr. Keith?
Yes, hi. Thanks for asking me to come back. So I do offer Kriya Yoga classes every 3 months on average. I offer a 6-week structured class. The first 4 weeks, each week is spent on one of those 4 V's you got briefly introduced to, and then there's 2 weeks focused on more advanced practices with all of that. I usually give a lecture the week before that's just open to anyone who wants to come and see what we'll be doing in the class. So it's an overview of everything. And at that point, I ask people to commit if they're going to do the class, and then it moves forward. There's also a 1-hour one-on-one class that's part of that package. So you can read about it on the website also. The website's up there. So there's a description of the class as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Have some fun and dive in. I know I'm looking forward to it. Dr. John Mundy will be doing a class coming up in January 17th. He's just started, but it's really an amazing class. I've heard a lot of people talk about it already, and he's talking about the plan behind appearances. Of course, from a Course in Miracles perspective, diving into this whole notion of what we see around us from the Course's perspective is an illusion. So the question is, how do we separate truth from reality? What is behind all of this? Very powerful. You can go to miraclesmagazine.org and find out more about his upcoming classes. And with us tonight is actually Imam Reverend Arif Husik, and he's going to be on every Friday. He offers a healing prayer for humanity. Arif, would you like to say a few words on what your gathering is all about and what it'll be focused on for the next couple of Fridays?
Yes, thank you, Reverend Dr. Bud. Good evening to all of you, brothers and sisters. It was very great pleasure to listen to the presenter, Dr. Keith. First time getting familiar with the Kriya Yoga, and I'd be interested to learn some more about that. I'm alumni from All Faith Seminary International, and proud alumni. So greetings to all of you from All Faith Seminary and your students. About our healing prayer for humanity, tomorrow is 147th Friday that we call our gatherings healing prayer for humanity. Since coronavirus hit the ground, we hit a Zoom and Facebook Live. So we are praying for the nation and the world for peace and unity everywhere. And we also have many other programs in the same Friday prayers. I ask you all to participate. For example, tomorrow, tune in if you can. And I appreciate those who already been with us, come back, and new one who never been, come in and we'll talk some more. Thank you for the opportunity to say a few words, Dr. Bud.
Oh, thank you so much, Iman. Love it and appreciate your insights on all of this. As we mentioned earlier, New Light Temple is the ordaining body for All Faith Seminary International. There are a number of very powerful programs that encourage you to go deeper into your own faith, very deeply interfaith, and you can go both deep and wide in the program, not only ministerial, but master's and doctoral programs, as well as rabbinical studies and focuses on A Course in Miracles. Lots of different offerings at the seminary. You can go to allfaithseminary.org and find more information there. And speaking of, our seminary's president, Rabbi Stuart Paris, graduated from the earthly plane and transitioned to his next spiritual step last month. It affected many of us very deeply. And one of the organizations that he was a part of and loved dearly was the Brookville Multi-Faith Campus. They publish a very wonderful monthly newsletter, and they're dedicating their next edition, the February edition of the newsletter, to Rabbi Paris. And so if you'd like to share a few words, memories, or pictures of Rabbi Paris, they would be happy to include them in their newsletter. And you can send them to brookvillemsc@gmail.com. And they would like them soon. And you can also take a look at their website, brookvillemultifaithcampus.org, and see what they're all about. You'll see a number of pictures of Rabbi Paris there as well. And I would like to invite Rabbi Scott to come forward and talk a little bit about the McCourt Center and some of the things that he's doing there. Rabbi Scott.
Thank you, Reverend Dr. Budd. I appreciate it. So this February 3rd, we're going to be doing a very special service. We're going to start in the sanctuary at the Multi-Faith Campus, and we're going to do some of a Shabbat service and also some of honoring Rabbi Paris, but then also we'll convene. We're going to shorten the service. Instead of a full hour, we'll do about 40 minutes. Then we're going to reconvene next door at the fellowship hall. And I want to work it out where we can do a hybrid, because this will be in person. And but those who can't come in person, everybody's invited, can join by Zoom. And what we'll do is we're going to see some pictures, hear some video, and recordings of Rabbi Stuart, as well as share stories. And anybody who's present on Zoom then will be invited, as time permits, to share any stories they would like as well. It's just a time that we can come together as a community and really celebrate Rabbi Paris's life. So please, I will be forwarding to Reverend Bud the Zoom link as soon as I get it. It'll probably be about a week before.
And I can forward that out to the email list so that everybody gets it. So that's great.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and I also want to mention that the McCourt Center for Spiritual Judaism, what is your role now at the McCourt Center, Scott?
So I'm the lead rabbi, and I'm also the executive director. So I wear two hats, I guess. So.
And more, no doubt. Well, the McCourt Center has this wonderful history. It's been around for what, over 100 years almost? It's
actually, last year was the 2022 was the 100th anniversary. So yes.
Wow, that's impressive. And they've been helping Jews from all denominations and practices dive deeper into the essential teachings of Judaism. And it's been very, very successful. And now you're going to be offering a Shabbat service. I know you've been offering it every month, and you're doing it online, and you want to do a little bit more going forward. Would you like to talk about that?
Sure. Thank you so much. Absolutely. I don't have a precise date yet, but I'm hoping somewhere in March, maybe around Purim. Our sanctuary has been rebuilt because it was destroyed in a leak. The ceiling came through from the roof. So we have it rebuilt, and we would like to go live again, but offer hybridized services, a hybrid service where you can come in person and then also join by Zoom. And what we're going to start off is every other week. The first week, the first Friday of every month, is joint with McCourt and the New Synagogue of Long Island. The third Friday is simply McCourt. But after maybe around Passover in that area, we would like to go every week.
Amazing. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming and sharing tonight.
Thank you so much.
By the way, we do this every month. So if you've got events that you would like to share, feel free to email them to us at thenewlighttemple@gmail.com. We're more than happy to share and have you come forward, just like you saw Imam and Rabbi do tonight. So love to have you participate and tell us what's important to everyone else. And with that, we're going to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bob, for doing a great service. Great moderator.
Thank you. This is absolutely awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Keith, Dr. Budd, and everyone else. It was beautiful, a beautiful, beautiful, meaningful service. Thank you.